I spent almost $900,000 on my divorce, but I used shocking evidence to defeat my cheating wife in court. I am an elementary school teacher with an easily predictable work schedule. I have regular working hours at school, and Tuesday afternoons are staff meeting hours, which usually last until 6 p.m., so I usually go home before 7 p.m. My wife Terry and I have been married for 31 years. Since she often feels tired after her weekly gym sessions on Tuesday evenings, I often offer to prepare dinner and do other household chores while she takes a bath. However, one day, to our surprise, our school principal canceled the staff meeting. It was only 3:30 p.m., and I suddenly decided to go home early and start preparing dinner in advance. I thought I could also do some of the remaining household chores before Terry returned from the gym. I've noticed lately that she's become increasingly distant, and I'm hoping a candlelit dinner and a relaxed atmosphere will help us reconnect and reignite the passion. Our marriage has been going through a rough patch, often revolving around financial issues. I've noticed Terry drifting further and further away from me, and she seems to want more control over every aspect of our lives. She can become very stubborn and argumentative when things don't go her way. Despite these challenges, I consider myself a patient person. Today, I come home like this and park in the garage, which is a distance from our house. We do this to ensure that the children's sleep is not disturbed by the noise of the car. Their sleep is important not only for their health, but also for our sanity. When they sleep soundly, we can get some quiet time to recharge. So I park the car and stroll to our two-story house as usual. I noticed that Terry's car was parked in the garage, but that was quite normal on her exercise days, as she preferred to take the bus to the gym. As I entered through the back door, the first thing that came to mind was that it was time to tidy up the space. I'm very good at fixing things around the house, so all the door hinges and moving parts are well maintained and free from noise. Nothing annoys us more than noisy doors or squeaky door hinges. However, the first thing that caught my attention was Terry's handbag still sitting on the kitchen counter. I knew she would be upset about this. Terry never leaves home without it, and she is meticulous about maintaining this habit. This unexpected sight diverted my attention, and I began to notice other abnormalities. Her gym clothes, mainly a leotard and a large towel, were lying on the floor near the kitchen counter. Then I heard a noise coming from the bedroom upstairs. I guessed that Terry might suddenly taken ill and was upstairs. I carefully walked up the carpeted stairs, almost tripping over a pair of men's shoes on the steps, which definitely weren't mine, nor were the pants, shirts, vests, and socks strewn across the stairs. They were Terry's underwear, her special underwear, reserved for special occasions like our wedding anniversary. I froze, my skin grew clammy, my blood pressure plummeted, and my heart skipped a beat. I had to go up the stairs to calm myself down. Couldn't believe it. A wave of anger washed over me, something I rarely felt. I was usually calm and self-controlled, the result of years as a teacher managing 30 children every day. But now I had lost my cool. Adrenaline surged through my veins, and I felt more angry than I had ever felt before. I had never even really fought before. These emotions were completely foreign to me. In the midst of these strange feelings, curiosity drove me to carefully climb the stairs and enter the closet we shared. One door led to the bedroom, the other to the bathroom upstairs. To get to the bedroom, I had to go through the ensuite bathroom that connected to our spacious walk-in closet, from where I could enter the bedroom through the wardrobe door that led to the bedroom. I could clearly see what was behind the wardrobe door, which was slightly open in just the right position to give a view of the bed. It was like a scene from a horror movie. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I kept hearing the groans and mutterings, but now I was overcome with anger and disbelief. I picked up my phone and started recording what I was seeing. I knew I would need this video later to convince myself that it was all real and that I wasn't trapped in some horrible nightmare. This video would be evidence of the impending conflict with Terry. My eyes remained fixed on the scene of painful betrayal before me. My wife, my lover, my life partner, the person I had trusted with my life, the mother of our adult children, a woman in her 40s who worked hard, was involved in charitable activities, and professed her love for me above all else. This was the most primal, fundamental betrayal of all. I had to stop recording and quietly made my way downstairs. I left our house and started walking, not knowing where to go, But eventually I found myself in a park a few miles from home. There, I splashed some water on my face, sat down and watched the recording on my phone. I turned the volume down so as not to disturb the children playing nearby. The destruction of my life and everything I had considered normal was there on the screen of my phone, in the form of digitized reality. It was the wreckage of our marriage, and it was at that moment that I finally let out a loud cry. Update. It was around 7 p.m., which was usually the time I returned from staff meetings. I found myself back home, standing at the back door. Terry noticed something was wrong with me and immediately asked what was wrong. I was unkempt, my eyes were red and puffy, and I was pale. She asked with concern, "Honey, what's wrong? You look terrible. Are you okay? I'll get you a drink. Are you okay?" Her eyes betrayed her concern. I couldn't tell her about my real anxiety, so I answered with a trembling voice, "Actually, it's nothing. I think I might have eaten something bad for lunch. I'm taking a shower and going to bed." Han said, "Okay, but bring a container with you. If you throw up, you might dirty the clean sheets. Those sheets, though clean, were now going to be stained with something worse than last night's dinner." I replied more firmly, "That's okay. I'll sleep in the spare room until I feel better." I went downstairs to the spare bedroom. This was the way it was for the next few days. Terry continued her usual routine, seemingly oblivious to my malaise. I used work as an excuse to drive on autopilot and continued to sleep in the spare bedroom on the pretext of being possibly ill. I knew I couldn't maintain this excuse for long, and eventually I moved back into our bedroom, but sleeping in that treacherous place was a challenge. Terry continued as if nothing had changed. Monday arrived and I decided what to do next. I needed to find out if this was an ongoing affair or a one-time event. I informed the headmaster that I was due to undergo an unexpected medical procedure the next day, and he arranged for a substitute teacher to come to my class on Tuesday morning. I left the house as usual but parked a few streets away from our neighborhood and walked back to our street. I knew the back door of our home near the backyard. I was careful to make sure I was not seen by any neighbors and walked to the garage at the back of the house. There I changed into clothing suitable for a quiet walk and began to wait. Blocks away and walked back to our street. I knew the back door of our home near the backyard. I was careful to make sure I was not seen by any neighbors and walked to the garage at the back of the house. I changed into clothing suitable for quiet walking there and then began to wait. I remembered that there was no extra car at home when I unexpectedly returned home last Tuesday, so I could not rely on the sound of the car arriving to alert me to the presence of a visitor. They must have come on foot. I crept through the garden until I reached a spot where I could observe our front door, while being hidden from passers-by by the hedges and shrubs we had planted. I waited for Terry, hearing her going about her daily chores, completely unaware of my presence. She was obviously very familiar with the daily routine and carried on as normal. She started in the kitchen washing dishes and operating the dishwasher, then moved on to vacuuming and dusting in the living room, continuing until about 11:30. Then Harry went upstairs to take a shower. I could vaguely hear the sound of water, followed by a period of silence, then the sound of the toilet flushing. About 45 minutes later, she returned downstairs, opened the front door, which she left ajar so that any potential visitors would not hesitate. I didn't have to wait long, and at about 12:30 he arrived. I didn't know who he was, but he entered from the left side of our front door. My phone recorded about 10 seconds of video, capturing a side profile and even almost a direct view of his face. He didn't hesitate, walking in and going inside. The next words I heard sent shivers down my spine. "Hey honey, I hope you dressed like you were going to the gym again." Carrie's response was, "Of course, you always liked it when I wore these. I sometimes wonder if it was these that attracted you to me or if they were what convinced me of our relationship." Their familiarity suggested it wasn't a one-off, as they moved to the bedroom. I backed into the garage, trying to calm myself down as my heart raced. I tried to figure out who this man was. I wondered if she would be intimate with me in the future. I saw no signs of protection. I worried about the possible risks she might be taking with other people. I pondered why she never talked about her feelings. I remembered that Terry had been working out at the nearby gym for 2 years. She had made connections with local married women and participated in charity events. Maybe the gym can answer our questions. Update: one of them is a teacher. I have access to a computer, printer, and other resources. I decided to start by printing out the footage from my phone to identify the participants. Maybe this will finally give me the answers I need to find out who was involved. Find out who didn't put in much effort. The following Thursday, Terry went to the gym as usual, and I suggested going with her to see if I wanted to become a member too, especially since I was off for midterm exams. Terry wasn't very interested and made excuses like it was just a bunch of married women and we mostly just talked during our workouts, or some other flimsy reason. I persisted and managed to go to the gym with her the next Thursday. When I walked into the gym, it felt like a scene from an old Western movie. Everyone turned to stare. All eyes were on me as a stranger entered the salon, and I noticed some whispering among the ladies. Terry shrugged it off, explaining that they weren't used to seeing her with someone else in her usual fitness class. The workout started with the usual warm-up and stretching, followed by about an hour and a half of alternating exercises to work different muscle groups. I tried to keep up, but had to take a break for about 45 minutes because my blood sugar was dropping and I knew I needed to eat something sweet soon. I did, and when Terry realized, she took some gummy bears and sat down in a nearby chair. I started to observe Terry more closely, and it was clear that she was nervous, often glancing towards the area where the staff trainers entered the main hall. I also took a closer look at the gym itself, which had the usual layout of gyms around the world, with fitness stations spread out in the room, each one equipped with a wall mirror for participants to check their form and muscle tone. I decided to take another closer look at the gym and found a wall near the exit of the hall with staff information posted on it, which would pass the time while I waited for Terry. I glanced at the top photo, which showed a woman with a great figure, but it was hard to tell her age. I thought to myself, Elisa White, director and owner of WS. Her contact number and available times are listed below the photo. Below her are 3 more photos, 2 of women and 1 of a man. At that moment, I froze, realizing that he was Terry's lover. This man was the one who had an affair with my wife, and she gave her enthusiastic consent. I seemed to see his description: Mr. Phillip, head of sports programs and personal body training. I noted his phone number. I noticed that Terry was not where I had last seen her. I returned to my seat and carefully checked each station for my wife. After some searching, I finally found her. It seemed that she was having a desperate conversation with a man who was partially hidden by some weightlifting equipment. He seemed to be near the entrance to the staff area and was obviously being prevented from entering by Terry. She signaled him to leave and hurried back to where she was supposed to be. She didn't know that I had noticed her absence conversation. I was experiencing an unfamiliar emotion at the time. When Terry returned to where I was sitting, it was obvious that I was not feeling well. She asked me if I was okay and if it would take a while for my blood sugar to return to normal. I answered that yes, I was fine now, and if she was ready to go. Before she could reply, Ms. WS announced over the gym's public address system that she had been informed that the final workout of the evening's routine would not be conducted because Mr. Bondi had suddenly become ill and had to leave. The news caused most of the women present to grumble and complain, as Mr. Bondi's workout sessions seemed to be the highlight for many of them. I think this needs investigating, I thought as I glanced at Terry. She remained silent when the announcement was made, but seemed relieved. Terry quickly said, "Let's go," and she led the way from the place where everyone stored their belongings while they exercised. We were just about to leave when a lady I hadn't recognized at first walked up to Terry. She commented, "It's a shame Phil didn't finish training as usual tonight." Terry replied, "Yes," and then walked towards the car, her attitude clearly indicating that she didn't want to discuss the matter at this time. "Fine," Terry said dismissively. She got into the car faster than ever. On the way home, Terry seemed relaxed. She leaned her head back and closed her eyes, as if deliberately slowing her breathing. I couldn't help noticing these changes in her behavior. Maybe now that she seemed to have let go, I could find out more, so this was a very interesting conversation. "Honey," I said, "the fitness station seems to be very well equipped. No wonder you look so healthy and slim." "You're absolutely right. They offer a very comprehensive range of classes. I really enjoy going there. The ladies are very friendly. It's just a shame about Mr. Buntai." I pressed on, "You mean Bunny?" She corrected me so quickly. Philip Bunny, he usually ends each session with a workout that really pushes everyone's limits. It's disappointing that he's not there tonight." I can't help but wonder how far Mr. Bondi can push her physically, and I can only say, well, maybe he'll feel better by next Thursday. I can't get the idea of my wife and Mr. Bondi getting up close and personal next Thursday out of my head. It's time to get down to business. Next week there will be a school duty day, a time when teachers supervise parents as they drive their children home from school. It is usually a chaotic scene with children eager to go home, chat with friends, and suddenly see their parents. It is a moment of patience for the parents, as they need to cross the moving traffic, hoping that their children are ready. When they reach the front, to my surprise, as the time to pick up the children is coming to an end, a car stops, and the driver is the lady who tried to talk to Terry at the gym the night before. Tim, my son, was here. As teachers, we are used to this situation, especially when someone is new, so I assured her that I would go find Tim, while my colleague supervised the remaining children. I found Tim, who was chatting with another staff member's child near the classroom. "Hey Tim, I said your mom is here to pick you up. Come with me to the pickup area." He seemed a little confused by this. He was in the last year of primary school, and it seemed strange to me that he would be the kind of person to forget to pick up his child. He said, "Mom is usually with her fitness instructor on Friday afternoons. She often picks me up late, and at my previous school she sometimes didn't arrive until around 5:30. My suspicions were heightened when I heard the name of Jim, the instructor. I continued the conversation, trying to remain calm. "Ah, I'm glad to see your mum looking after her health. Exercise is an important part of a healthy lifestyle. Do you know the name of your trainer?" I hoped the answer would not confirm my fears. "Oh, his name is Buntai or something like that," Timothy replied. "He also works at a local gym and often gives private lessons in people's homes. That's what I want to do when I grow up. Mum really enjoys working out with him on Friday nights. She comes home so relaxed and radiant. It's wonderful." Frida. Friday nights are always takeaway night because Mum rarely has time to cook. I never imagined that this stuttering guy was involved with not only my wife, but with so many people. I walked Timothy back to his car, and his mother expressed her gratitude for our concern. "No problem," I said. "It's part of the service. By the way, I don't think we've met before. I'm Gerard DS, the kids call me Mr. D. Nice to meet you." I shook her hand, and she introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Mary Jones. I remember seeing you at the gym last Thursday. I was there with my wife, Terry. I'm sorry, she seemed in a hurry when she left." Mr. Bunny's absence seemed to disrupt everyone's schedule that evening. At that moment, her entire demeanor changed dramatically. Before, she was just an apologetic parent picking up her child from school. She suddenly looked pale and nervous. She said, "Well, yes, okay, I'll see you again. Goodbye, Mr. Downs," and quickly drove off. Update: it was time for me to plan for the future, and I believe I had already sketched it out with my then partner Terry, but it seemed bleak. I was alone, probably without anyone else, certainly without Terry. My anger led me down a path I had never imagined, the path of revenge. I began to scrutinize all the important but often overlooked details that are part of a couple's daily life, such as who was responsible for paying the bills, what we used, what our utility bills were, from which account the various bills were paid, and when. As my database of this information began to expand, I discovered that we only had a small amount left to pay on our mortgage, that my pension account had grown to $900,000, and that I couldn't help but thank our teachers' union for that. Without Terry's knowledge, I had to admit that there was no escaping the fact that we would have to split everything equally. Our children are now financially independent, and we did have about $30,000 in our cash account, which we had planned to use for an overseas trip. Unfortunately, this trip will no longer be possible. My initial plan was to use the money as quickly as possible before Terry found out about her betrayal. I quietly let several household appliances suddenly malfunction. When Terry was not at home, I disconnected the wires here and there, and then claimed that Mr. So-and-so came to repair a particular appliance for a certain amount of cash, which was slightly lower than the price he said. I would secretly hide this cash and then repair the appliance in this way. I managed to hide about $20,000. I also bought tools and things like that, always paying in cash and then showing Terry and going the next day to return the cash. I admit it was cheating, but the value of honesty and trust had already eroded in our relationship because of Terry's behavior. The whole situation made me into someone I never thought I'd become. A cheater. Terry's Thursday afternoon workouts with Bonnie continued, and I stopped trying to have any kind of sexual relationship with her. NIE's workout continued, and I stopped trying to have any kind of sexual relationship with her. We just got along like two roommates. Gradually, my personal belongings began to disappear in the garage. Terry rarely went to the garage, so she didn't notice the rearrangement of the car. She usually parked in front of the garage and was satisfied with using the garage as her own space. She did question the disappearance of some of my personal items from the bookshelves, but I kept putting off an explanation, saying that I had broken things accidentally or that I no longer needed them. Sherry was happy with these answers, mainly because most of my things didn't fit in with her preferred color scheme or the ambience of the room. When I got rid of most of my things in this way, it didn't significantly change the atmosphere at home. This made me realize how much I had succumbed to Terry's influence in many aspects of our shared life. I withdrew as much of my superannuation as I could and bought a small house. It was very compact, with just 2 bedrooms and a tiny yard, but it had a garage and was conveniently located near my school and workplace. What was even better was that the remaining mortgage balance meant that I could easily afford the monthly repayments even on half my salary. It was by no means a mansion. Surprisingly, if you are willing to give up those flashy neighborhood, you'll find that the value is outstanding. My separation plan is well underway. I'm gradually moving my personal belongings into the new house. Furniture is not a problem, as I can easily find secondhand or used goods at thrift stores. It feels like my life is like secondhand goods, once cherished, now forgotten, relying on charity to gain value. It's time to let the people involved get the rewards they deserve. Mary Jones found me when she picked up her child from school, and we reconnected. She arrived while I was waiting with her son Timothy. She looked distressed, with the telltale signs of recent tears in her eyes. As a teacher, I was trained to read between the lines and gain insight into the lives of my students and their struggles. "Mr. D, can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked anxiously. "Sure, since no one else is here, just park there and meet me where I usually go," I replied. I used the benches around the school as my office. She parked the car while Timothy played with a football, and we sat on the bench near the pickup zone. "I don't know where to start, what I need to tell you." She started to speak. "I'm not sure you know much about the gym you saw, but go on," she said confidently. "He's a womanizer and targets many ordinary women there." When I asked her how she knew, she replied, the tears in her eyes, "Until last week. I was one of them, and we met every Friday at 12:30. She paused for a moment, looking up as if reliving those moments. I also shifted my gaze, remembering those meetings, though not with fond memories. She apologized for sharing this, and I really liked him, she said, until he found someone else to replace me, and the relationship suddenly ended without explanation, just an apology. I had thought we had a future together, and I was divorced and missed the regular intimacy of a relationship, so I was really excited about the chance to experience it again with him. I was completely taken aback by her frankness. How could she think she should share this with me? She must have been upset and wanted to comfort me, but I overreacted a bit. Marital relationships are not always what they seem. She looked at my face and noticed the pain and sadness in my expression. "You already know, don't you?" She shook her head slowly, not believing it. "You already know that he had an affair with your wife, Terry." I admit it, "Yes, I know." "Mary, thank you for telling me." Although I tried to hide the bitterness in my voice, I had already set about dealing with the whole situation. I believe in karma, and I think he'll get his comeuppance soon. Mary was practically shouting. He didn't care who he hurt or how, as long as his sexual urges were satisfied and he could brag to his buddies in the pub. That's all he wanted. "If you want me to help you get back at him, just let me know. That person has to pay, and it should be a lot." She called her son over, left, and I sat there brooding for a long time. Update 3. I felt a sense of relief as Mary told me her story. My revenge plan was like sour grapes, born of my inability to save my marriage. I realized it needed deeper thought. I began to think about how many other women he might be involved with. Starting with the gym, it was time to gather concrete evidence. I couldn't help but marvel at the man's stamina, but I suppose even the devil doesn't get tired. I discovered that he worked out every day except Mondays, when the gym was closed. I used the white pages of the phone book to find the gym's phone number, which was posted on the wall. I tracked down the address for the number, which was only 3 blocks from our house. This explained how the scoundrel could conveniently walk to our house and fool around with my soon-to-be ex-wife. I told Terry that I took a walk every day around 5 p.m., saying that it was recommended by my specialist. Fortunately, Terry wasn't interested in walking with me, and she knew that it wouldn't affect her contact work. Scoundrel was able to conveniently walk to our house and fool around with my soon-to-be ex-wife. I told Terry that I take a walk every day around 5 p.m., saying that it was recommended by my specialist. Fortunately, Terry was not interested in taking a walk with me, and she knew that it would not affect her liaison work, so everything went well on my first evening walk. I went straight to Bonnie's address and found that he lived in a ground-floor apartment in one of several similar units. His car was not there, so I wandered around the neighborhood, waiting for him to return. He always left our house very early, before 6 o'clock, which made it likely that he would arrive around the estimated time. He did walk into his apartment before 6 o'clock, every day. I was able to go for walks except the day of the staff meeting when I couldn't walk. I suspected that he would follow this pattern every day. Did he have a different woman every day when the gym opened? I planned to find out by gradually advancing the time of my walks to monitor his daily activities. I decided to take a week off work to do this. I went to an electronics store and purchased the necessary equipment, including a covert long-range listening device, not one of those satellite dish-like things. I also bought 5 full-color high-definition voice and motion-sensing cameras, making sure I had enough storage to keep the digital evidence. After buying all this on Monday, I also got an extra portable hard drive for my computer. I installed one of the cameras in Bond's apartment, which, fortunately, was not very spacious, more like a one-bedroom apartment with a spacious living room and kitchen dining room. One camera was enough to cover everything except his bedroom. Putting the camera in his bedroom was a breeze. I just had to wait until he went to the gym and retrieve the apartment key from where he had accidentally left it under the doormat. After making sure the camera was working properly, he had no imagination left. Now, whenever he moved or made a sound in the apartment, I would leave, activate and transmit the video and audio in real time to my computer, while being securely stored in the computer with a date stamp. The camera started working as soon as Bondi returned home on Monday night, clearly recording him enjoying a takeaway dinner in front of the TV at around 9 p.m. before going to bed. I waited until the gym closed and then entered through the back door, which is often overlooked during the pre-closing inspection of most stores. Most stores overlook the back door during the pre-closing inspection, but fortunately I was lucky. I cleverly placed the next camera in the private room located in the back, where customers usually have personal health assessments, and Bonnie often meets with his private clients here. I can't help but question what kind of person I've become, installing cameras in other people's spaces, essentially spying on them. I wondered what the consequences of this would be. On Wednesday, when Terry went shopping for groceries, I seized the opportunity to discreetly place the 3rd and 4th cameras in the bedroom and living room. After reviewing the footage from Tuesday, I was both surprised and unsurprised to discover that Bonnie had quickly left after waking up, only to return later with breakfast. I couldn't help but think that the lazy guy wouldn't even make his own breakfast. He stayed at home until the gym opened, and didn't leave until 10:30. During this time, he made an intriguing phone call. "Julie, hi, it's Phil. Is he gone yet? I'll see you at your place at 12:30. Remember to wear the clothes I mentioned." "No, I'll be careful. No one will see me go into your place. You said he'd be gone for 3 days. Okay, maybe I can come on Thursday and Friday too. We'll talk in the afternoon." After hanging up, he left with a brisk pace. I couldn't help wondering how he planned to explain to Terry on Thursday. I set up my computer in the garage, impatiently waiting for what was about to happen. Almost at the same time, Bont's camera appeared on my screen. He got up, went out for breakfast again, and then came back and made a phone call. It was Terry's phone, and he dialed the number, and the camera transmitted her side of the conversation. "Hey, it's me, Phil. How's that favorite spot of mine feeling today?" "Phil, don't talk like that on the phone. You never know who's listening. Fortunately, my husband has already left for work. See you at 12:30 as usual. Update for Mary, the parent at school, seemed very willing to help, so I asked her to make a list of the women with whom the scoundrel had or had had a relationship. She took on the task with great enthusiasm and, to my shock and dismay, came up with names and addresses in less than a week. Terry was on the list. By this point, I had almost severed all contact with her, and her house had lost its emotional value and became merely a residence. Terry had indeed commented recently on feeling the house empty, and I explained that I was working on decluttering my belongings, an explanation she accepted as it did not affect her possessions and even provided more space for her. I also moved the contents of the garage to my new house to complete my departure. It only took me 20 minutes to pack the rest and I drove away. I consulted a divorce lawyer and all the necessary divorce papers were ready for immediate service. The finances were sorted out and the holiday savings were withdrawn and transferred to my personal account. I carefully saved all the receipts for fictitious purchases and neatly filed them in a folder in case they were needed as evidence. I changed the beneficiary of my pension to our children and withdrew all available funds. I opened separate bank accounts, credit cards, and insurance policies in my name. The registrations and insurances were transferred to her name, and she will be solely responsible from now on. Unfortunately, I have no control over the house and can only rely on a court decision. I bought a new mobile phone registered in my name only and made sure it had an unlisted number. The old phone was deactivated. I prepared a package of information for each of the husbands or partners of the women Mary had listed. Each package contained details of the relationship with their partner, as well as his name and address. I also included the address of our town's sexual health clinic, as it appeared that most of the relationships were taking place without protection. I wrote a detailed letter to the owner of the gym, suggesting that she have a serious discussion with the lead trainer at the kitchen table. I put the divorce papers, the video surveillance photos of the bastard with Terry, and the DVD of their affair in the bag, along with my wedding ring cut in half and covered in an unpleasant substance. The accompanying note read, "Terry, I leave you this stained ring, which symbolizes our marriage. Please do not contact me except through the lawyer mentioned in the divorce agreement. I have asked the school to ban you from the school, so please do not try to find me there, as this could cause a disturbance and lead to the swift police intervention. I have also informed our children of my actions to ensure that they understand why we are splitting up. I have sent them copies of the DVD so that no one can make up lies about who initiated the breakup. Last update. I drove to my new home and waited for the full fallout to hit. Somehow, the local newspaper had sniffed out a scandal at a nearby gym. The owner had no choice but to close the business and leave town. Meanwhile, a former gym instructor was found in a downtown alley. He is believed to have been attacked by a group of unidentified male assailants. The local court was overwhelmed by a sudden surge in divorce petitions, and many houses were put up for sale. Terry returned home that day, discovered my breakup gift, and promptly fainted. A neighbor heard her scream and witnessed her fall. Our 70-year-old neighbor, who is very observant, quickly realized the reason for Terry's fainting. She quickly called the emergency services and then left the house without locking the door. Terry tried to contact me but failed to do so. She even tried to find me at school, and was arrested after spending the night in custody and receiving a stern warning from the magistrate. Her efforts to contact me considerably slowed down. Our children, who had not hidden their displeasure at her blatant infidelity, were fortunately both married and had inherited more moral values about fidelity from me than they had apparently received from Terry. The divorce proceedings were completed and the remaining financial issues were settled in the usual way. Terry had to sell the house and the proceeds enabled her to purchase a smaller home in the outer suburbs, where she currently lives alone. She was forever branded as the notorious fitness instructor, and whenever she ventured into the city center, she was met with countless stares and whispers. The depression caused by this rejection and humiliation eventually led to her being admitted to a psychiatric hospital. As for me, I continued my teaching career and live a happy life in my new home.